Welcome to the latest edition of Russia Unmasked from the Centre for Russian Studies in Kyiv, in which we challenge the propaganda published by the Kremlin against Ukraine and share Ukrainian perspectives. My name is Tony Meehan, I'm based in London. Russia's war of aggression is now approaching 1,500 days. It continues. But first, a prayer for Ukraine. Long may she survive, endure and prevail. We're going to open this episode of Russia Unmasked a little bit differently, and we're going to call it the Greenland All Winners Quiz, which is based on three seemingly unrelated stories, but when you run them together, they seem to make sense. There are 4 questions. You have to guess the right answer. 1, 2, 3 or 4. Did the US president buy a rubber chicken from the Russians and the Chinese in response to another Putin propaganda story about Greenland and the Arctic? Was his Greenland threat simply to control the agenda at the World Economic Forum? Or was it simply an attention-seeking move to shake up the leaders and remind them who is the boss and who's running things? Or was the alleged threat to Greenland all bluff and bluster? We found out in less than 12 hours. It was a chapter from his book, The Art of the Deal. We'll ask you for your answers at the end of the podcast. As we all know now, Mr. Trump struck a deal on Greenland during a meeting with the head of NATO. He cancelled the threatened 10% tariff on Britain and other European allies who refused to support his plan to acquire the territory. The US president said he agreed on a framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland during a conversation with Rutte. Now that tells you a lot. It's a conversation, it's not a negotiation. It's a future deal, it's a framework. So therefore, I think we go for, at the present moment, bluff and bluster as a lead contender. Based on this understanding, quote unquote, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on the 1st of February, said Mr. Trump on Truth Social. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. And we move on. Secretary General Mark Rutte said, the issue is Ukraine, not Greenland. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, and this was before he had the meeting with Donald Trump, the key problem for NATO at present is the Russia-Ukrainian war rather than the situation around Greenland. He said he was concerned that we might drop the ball by focusing on so much on these other issues. Wise man. The risk here is that if you focus, of course, on Greenland, because we have to make sure that that issue gets solved in an amicable way, but the main issue is not Greenland. Now the main issue is Ukraine. He pointed out that Russia is currently destroying Ukraine's energy sector with missiles and drones amid severe frost. So that gives you an idea as to where Rutte was coming from before he met with the US president. And clearly they've negotiated well, or they've discussed well. They haven't negotiated yet, but things are moving in the right direction. Parallel to this, but not necessarily in response, President Zelensky made a statement before travelling to Davos that Russia will have 2.5 million soldiers by 2030. And therefore Europe needs to increase troop numbers now, or start it at least. This was during an online press briefing reported by European Pravda, and he stressed that Europe needs to join armed forces in view of the threat posed by Russia. I think he's incorporating Europe as a whole as opposed to necessarily NATO in isolation, and therefore including himself in that group, one assumes. Russia aims to field armed forces of 2.25 million troops by 2030. He stressed that the United European Armed Forces, which is a new name, while recognising that each country must maintain its own sovereign military, must be ready to respond to the threat posed by Russia. And let us not ignore the fact that Russia does pose a threat. In his view, that is Zelensky, the size of the European joint armed forces should be around 3 million. And that would mean Russia will have to take a question, or make a question, ask itself a question. What does it want to do? He then goes on to criticize European leaders for saying that a year has passed and no one has taken a simple step towards this discussion, towards this idea. Amid all the challenges, the European leaders will think about it a little. They need to think about it a lot more. His evening addresses are the present-day version of those radio fireside chats you used to get from the American president during World War II. So he's doing well with that. He's enacted sanctions going on, again dealing with propaganda. He said in an offensive anti-propaganda attack against those who practice the art, he declared, "I signed a new sanction decision. These are against those individuals who justify the aggression, the war, and are used by Russia in propaganda." The decree he's enacted, sanctions adopted by the Ukraine National Security and Defense Council, was published on the President's website. It, at the present moment, includes the names of 3 Russians, Yakov Bukin, Pavel Roshkov, and Dmitry Schmidt, as well as 2 legal entities, the All-Russian Public Organizations, the Public Paralympic Committee, and the Russian Computer Sports Federation. So they've been sanctioned by Ukraine as persona non grata. Zelensky also said Ukraine will continue to work to synchronize sanctions, not only regarding partners' decisions within our jurisdiction, but also regarding Ukrainian sanctions against those reflected in the list of partners. So therefore, what he is saying is that whilst other countries may effect and impose sanctions, they must comply with the legal system of Ukraine and its jurisdiction so it can be effective. I think we can say, congratulations, Mr. President, well argued. Time, I think, if I may also say, a moment for reflection. Regular followers of this podcast will remember and know that we have said many times that Putin is the master manipulator. While his main focus is Ukraine, he recently created a scenario with his main ally China to take attention of his biggest threat, i.e. the US president, away from his real target, i.e. Ukraine, into something that he can easily manipulate, a non-fictional threat from the Arctic. Putin's timing is perfect. It distracted focus from the World Economic Forum in Davos, and it distracted attention from the Russian threat to Europe to a non-existent and, dare I say, artificial, bogus threat to the US. Did he have a willing accomplice in the President of the United States, or was he playing him like an old fiddle? Maybe I'm confusing conspiracy theories with reality. Who knows? Whatever. No matter. Putin again achieves his disruption and confusion amongst Western allies and creates a new challenge for Ukraine, albeit temporary. It doesn't matter. Love 40 to Putin. A final example of Putin is that he never misses the opportunity to go for the throat. You will recall that recently President Trump announced his intention to create a board of peace. And in doing so, he extended invitation to world leaders. The entry fee was $1 billion. In those he invited, much to my surprise and I'm sure yours, was in fact Vladimir Putin. Putin's response was interesting. He said that at a meeting of the Russian Security Council, Russia is ready to contribute $1 billion from the Russian frozen assets in the United States to President Trump's Board of Peace for Gaza. Now what he's done there is he said, you're holding my money so you use it as the entry fee and I expect to get in. But also I'm talking about the Board of Peace for Gaza. I'm not talking about the Board of Peace for Ukraine. Putin thanked Trump for the invitation to join, adding cynically that Russia always supports any efforts aimed at strengthening international stability. He said, given Russia's special relationship with the Palestine people, Interesting. Russia could send $1 billion to the border peace out of the assets that were frozen in the United States under the previous administration. So what he's saying is that Biden, who is not a friend of Trump, froze the assets. So here's an opportunity for Trump to get back at one at Biden. I think we could leave the Greenland crisis and call it was the crisis that never was. The intentions of the President of the United States to bring Greenland under American control, he achieved his objectives, but doing it through NATO. Let us talk briefly about this border peace. It's an alleged United States-led governmental organization that is nominally proposed to promote stability, restore dependable and lawful governance, and secure enduring peace in areas affected or threatened by conflict. As I said previously, one of the first members to invite it was Vladimir Putin, the alleged saviour of Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the Donbass and responsible for deaths of 1.25 million Russian soldiers in Ukraine. The board was proposed by Donald Trump in September 25, and it was established in January 2026. Joining the board costs each country $1 billion. Not sure where the money goes. By virtue of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2803, drafted by the United States and adopted in November 2025, the board is mandated to support the administration, reconstruction and economic recovery of the Gaza Strip in the aftermath of the Gaza war. What is the situation with regards to Ukraine? Is the border peace a vanity project for Trump? Don't know. Interestingly, Norway and France have both refused to join Trump's border peace, as they say it challenges international law. As we're talking about propaganda and how it is used, for one of the most important tools is media management. And I think that is an example of Mr. Trump's media management. Other forms of media management is the control and domination, and by that I mean restricting what members of your public, your citizens, have access to. China, along with North Korea, Iran, Syria, Vietnam, Cuba, Turkmenistan and Eritrea, just to name a few countries that restrict their citizens' access with immediate effect. Our second story comes as no surprise to anyone accessing this broadcast. The name Mark Zuckerberg will be known to many, if not all of you, as the founder of Facebook. Today he is a major shareholder in an organisation called Meta, M-E-T-A Platforms, Inc., an American multinational technology company and the owner of social media platforms and communication services, including Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, Threads and WhatsApp. A recent story in the Kremlin-aligned news agency TASS informed the world that WhatsApp is to be completely blocked in Russia this year. A decision that is completely justified given the elections coming up next year. So we're talking, not sure if we're talking about 2026 or 2027 elections, but anyway, and I'm interested to know that they've got elections. Deputy Chairman of the State Duma Committee for Information Policy, IT and Communications, Andrei Svintnov, told TASS, "I believe that indeed Roskomnadzor, the Russian telecom regulator, will adopt a package of measures for final blocking of WhatsApp by the end of the year," so that's 2026. This is because WhatsApp is owned by Meta, recognized as the extremist company in Russia, and such tough measures, particularly in a pre-election year, are absolutely justified, the lawmakers said. The majority of his friends and acquaintances have long ago moved from WhatsApp to Telegram or National Messenger, as Svitnov added. It's also owned by Meta and Zuckerberg, so 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. On August 13 last year, the Russian telecom watchdog informed it was about to implement measures to partly limit calls in Telegram and WhatsApp messengers in Russia, since they turned into main voice services used for fraud and money extortion, and for bringing Russian nationals into sabotage and terrorist activities. Interesting. Measures against WhatsApp continue to be taken because the messenger breaches Russian laws. So if we do a quick honesty check, the Russian justification for shutting down WhatsApp or any other online chat platform is not open freedom political discussion or criticism. It is the alleged criminal terrorist activity. Okay? Fraud, extortion, smuggling of drugs, guns, people trafficking. The underlying messages being, we, the Russian state, is being responsible. We are applying the safety of Russian laws. We are protecting you, your family. The unspoken observations, we are denying you access to external influences, information and opinions which are contrary to the way we want you to think, is not mentioned. They're not mentioned. Nor do they refer to any of the other matters. It's a case that we don't want you to read foreign information and material. So it doesn't take a lot of information to conclude or assume many governments use multiple internet platforms to influence the thinking of their citizens. Their own platforms. Right, that's all for now. From all of us at the Center for Russian Studies in Kyiv, thank you. Please share this podcast with your friends and those you think will be interested. The online address is Russia Unmasked on YouTube. We'll be back with more news from Kyiv soon. Until then, Slav Ukraini. Ukrainians were, are, and always will be here. Volodymyr Zelensky. Thank you.